the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not a ton. It's Tuesday, which is traditionally Twitter Tuesday, which is always fun to get to interact with people because, it's the long dry spell for Cowboys football news. There's nuggets here and there. So I know lots of people have questions on their mind. This is the time to get the questions in to ask your really deep dive questions, and hopefully we'll get them all answered for you.
I almost stumbled in the intro because one of the Twitter questions was, why don't I refer to you as our co-host on this podcast, Landon? And, it's a good question. I'm not sure. I've always just thought of you as NFL expert, right?
Yeah, I'm just the perpetual guest, apparently.
Apparently.
I'm not a co-host. So,
which basically means you got to keep your performance up, right? Or
it's a carrot stick situation just to kind of make sure that I continue to give good information, right?
Yes. All right. Let's get into the questions. First and foremost, Landon, it is so nice to just sit on Twitter today and watch everybody else's fan bases melt down because of quarterback problems, right? I saw Dolphins Twitter was just freaking out because of some interceptions that Tua threw at practice. Patriots fans are getting all upset over Cam Newton interceptions. It's nice just to be off for the rest of the summer. I just want to say that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially since our long summer of discontent during the Dak negotiation situation and which was preceded by our long winter of discontent because we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. So, to go through all of that and then to have it finally resolved and just get to see a little bit of suffering from other teams' fan bases is, I guess, nice to see there. That's not us, at least, right?
We'll find something else to be upset
I'm
about.
Sure.
Don't you guys
it'll
worry.
come up.
All right. First question from @arguing_Cowboys. Is Dan Quinn the only real reason to be optimistic about the Cowboys defense compared to last year's defense?
No, I don't think so. I think, you've got Randy Gregory coming in, with a full off season. You've got Trayvon Diggs coming back after a good season. I think there's been a lot of turnover at positions that needed turnover. I mean, look, I think there's optimism in the sense that you saw what you had last year and it didn't work, and the Cowboys made a real concerted effort to try to fix the defensive line and try to fix what was happening there. And I think that should provide some optimism that they are at least trying to overhaul it and that there's some new blood there. I think the Quinn is kind of the thing that we're all focusing on because it seems like that's the major, schematic effect that it's going to have on the defense. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as we've discussed, it's more about the Jimmies and Joes and the X's and O's, as they say.
Nice NFL cliche right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. And I think the key thing is that they have had a lot of turnovers. There is a lot of new blood on this defense, while kind of retaining the guys that we had interest in kind of continuing to see. Some obviously the DeMarcus Lawrences, Randy Gregory I've already mentioned, some of the young guys, Gallimore, Hill, and then guys like Donovan Wilson who had a breakout season last year. I think people are excited to see what kind of year two of potentially getting more playing time would be for him. So I think there's more than just Quinn to be optimistic about. I just think that Quinn is kind of, because he's the defensive coordinator and because he's the headline, right, of all of this, that's why it's easy to kind of focus on that as the source of optimism.
I think the other part of it is it's not going to be that hard for this team to be average on defense. And if we know that if they can be average, the ceiling is so high for this team, right? Like they could be a playoff team. They could be an NFC contender. So I think we're optimistic about this defense regressing back to the mean, right?
Yeah,
Or I
sure.
don't even know if regressing is the right word, but like,
well, I think it is if you talk about injury luck. Specifically, I just saw an article that someone had just tweeted out
PFF.
of PFF,
Yep.
the whale thing, war.
Yep.
I think I can't remember the exact abbreviation, but it's something like war. Wins over replacement is war, right? This is the abbreviation for war, and it was about the amount of war lost during a season last year for injuries, and the Cowboys were at the very wrong end of that scale, right next to the San Francisco 49ers.
Well,
so
they had the second most lost wins due to injuries of any team since 2012, not just last year, right? Any team since 2012. So, I mean, a lot of that is because of Dak, but they also had a lot of injuries on defense as well, right? Between Leighton Vander Esch and Tristan Hill and Trevon Diggs got hurt for a little bit, and Anthony Brown was out.
Anthony Brown, even though he was playing with an injury, and we don't think of him as someone that we're dying to have on the field, but just having someone like Chidobe Awuzie on the field,
sure,
when you're pulling guys off the street to play cornerback would have been useful. So there is a lot of reason to think that the Cowboys defense. Let's put it this way: I think there's a lot more reason to think that the Cowboys defense will be better than they will be the same as from last year. So
I would be shocked
to me gives me optimism.
Like, honestly, this isn't me being an overly optimistic Cowboy fan, but like if they finish in the bottom 5 of defense this year, I would be shocked.
Yeah, I would be too, honestly.
Like again, the talent isn't elite, but I think the benefit of going to a scheme like this is it helps you be average, right? I think when you talk about a cover 3 defense, there's a potential for really good quarterbacks to pick you apart. And maybe you can't get to be a top 5, top 10 defense unless you have just superb talent. But I think it does help you be average. And that is the goal for the Dallas Cowboys this year. If you can be average on defense, they will be in the playoffs.
Yep. I think ultimately at the end of the day, they're just trying to slow down teams from scoring points. And I think there is a ceiling for cover 3 base defenses, but I do think there's also a very nice floor that if you have even decent talent, you should be able to at least make offenses have to, methodically march up and down the field to score on you as opposed to taking huge chunks and scoring right away.
And also, back to Dan Quinn, he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. Like, I know it didn't always play out that way in Atlanta, but I think it's important to remember, like, his first couple years with the Falcons, their defenses were pretty good, right? Like, especially when considering, some of the lack of talent that they had on defense. They had, Dan Quinn had him playing pretty well. He's a good defensive coordinator. I do think that's a lot of the reason for optimism. But the players that you mentioned, specifically the young guys, Diggs, Gallimore, Tristan Hill, that's another reason to be excited. Let's take one quick break so I can tell you guys about BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info on all your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, and NHL. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all of the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Landon, this next question comes from Cameron. With all of these positive news reports coming out about Nahshon Wright's play during OTAs, if he continues to play and practice at a high level, is there an actual chance that he makes an extended appearance early on in the season?
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to play and is consistently, making plays like he has been at the rate previous into training camp, I mean, absolutely. I think it becomes harder. I think it becomes more difficult, and the achievement of doing what Nahshon has done so far, throughout training camp is several steps away from where he is right now. I mean, I think people need to understand that consistently producing in training camp and showing out in training camp day in, day out, that's not an easy task. And if you could do that in training camp, then yeah, I think you, especially as a 3rd round pick, you've earned the opportunity to get some playing time early on in the season. But I would caution everyone and say we shouldn't just kind of wave our hand and suggest that that's an easy thing to do. There's a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, we honestly, I don't want that to happen, right? Like, for Nahshon's sake and for the Cowboys, it's not to say that I think Nahshon's a bad player. It's just that I don't think you want Nahshon Wright on the field against Tom Brady in week 1. Let me just say that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think if he does what he's doing now all the way through training camp, I feel much better about it. But I also think that we shouldn't just assume, we shouldn't just extrapolate out what he did in minicamp through training camp, because again, that's incredibly difficult. They're going to have to play through, he's going to have to go against Amari Cooper and TD Lamb and Michael Gallup every single day. And so if he's able to consistently produce and make a mark on the defense while facing those guys on a day in, day out basis throughout training camp, then I mean, I think the news is more, absolutely, I want that guy out on week 1, because what he's done is quite remarkable. But again, I wouldn't expect that. I don't think that should be the expectation for Nahshon Wright, because I think what we've seen from him so far, just the reports out of training camp, out of mini camp and OTAs, I think that's surprising. It's not what we're expecting. So could he potentially be a much better player than we all anticipated? Absolutely. But I wouldn't say that we should go ahead and assume that just because he's had a lot of success so far.
Yeah, we want the Cowboys kind of to ease Nahshon Wright into these games, right? Like, if possible, make him the 4th or 5th corner, because we know that corners typically struggle during their rookie seasons. I'm excited about Nahshon, way more excited now than I was on draft night. I remember calling you after the second day of the draft, just kind of complaining about the pick. I feel much better about it now, but I hope we don't see him early on during the season. Let's go ahead and get to another question. This one from @DeathCraven, and man, this is a great question considering his Twitter handle. Not counting Dak, which player would be the toughest to replace for 4 or more games if they got hurt?
Ooh.
So basically, this is a question of where do we have the least amount of depth, right? Because for me, it's DeMarcus Lawrence. Because
I was just going to say that. I think so too, honestly. Because if you're talking about pass rushers, right? Like proven guys who can actually affect a pass blocking scheme, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping a lot on Randy Gregory. But DeMarcus Lawrence is the only guy who has consistently, beaten, passing schemes and pass blocking schemes have to, be adjusted for him. And without DeMarcus Lawrence, that makes everybody's job a whole lot more difficult.
Without Lawrence, I mean, you're probably then relying on Dorrance Armstrong, Chauncey Golston, 3rd round pick in Chauncey Golston. You're just not getting a lot, off the edges at all for this Cowboys team. So I think DeMarcus Lawrence would be hard. I kind of think Trevon Diggs would be really hard as well, because you don't have any other proven outside corners, right? Like, if Diggs goes down, now you are relying on probably Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright at the same time. That could be terrifying. Any other ones? Zach Martin always. I mean, they have a little bit more depth there, but
they have a little bit more depth at the offensive line. So I don't know if I would necessarily count that, but I would say, maybe safety. I mean, just because they don't have a ton there in the first place. Honestly, I think you could more easily cobble together safety. You can more easily cobble together some of these spots. DeMarcus Lawrence would be difficult because you'd have to kind of change your way of attacking.
I think you'd have to blitz a lot more.
Yeah, right? Exactly. You'd have to blitz more. You'd probably have to lean into using Parsons more as a pass rusher. There's just a lot of different things that you'd have to do to get kind of to replace DeMarcus Lawrence's usefulness in the defense.
All right. Next question. This one comes from JJ. What is the Cowboys' strongest defensive position group heading into the 2021 season?
Linebacker, right? I mean, just because just based on sheer volume. Yeah. I mean, I have to say linebacker. I mean, just because I mean, even if we don't know, even if it's a great unknown, I think you have way more answers at linebacker than any other position.
That one's close for me, because I think you can make an argument that defensive end is actually better, right? Because
which is ironic because we just talked about how
but you're assuming that everybody's healthy, right? Because DeMarcus Lawrence, I still think is at the very worst, the top 10 edge rusher in football. We all know what Randy Gregory can do. And I think you have enough depth behind those guys that they can fill in spots, right? They can give you some valuable snaps. Who's your best linebacker on this team right now? It's definitely the deepest spot on the team, but who's the best linebacker?
Well, yeah, but I also think that you're asking that question in a way that suggests that you don't have a good linebacker, whereas
I don't know if we do. Do we know we have a good linebacker yet?
It's a Schrodinger's box, right? It's like you could have 5 great linebackers in there, or you could have 5 dead linebackers in there, and you won't know until you open up the box, and the box being training camp. I think, I understand what you're saying. Like it's not easy to easily for me to say who the best linebacker is, but I don't know that necessarily means that there isn't talent at the linebacker position. I do agree with you that if we're talking about which starting position group do we feel the most comfortable about the talent there, if I'm talking about Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence versus everyone else as the starters of their position, absolutely. Those are the two guys, the positions that I'm the most excited to see what they do, because I have a lot of faith that Randy Gregory is going to be a good player next year. I have a lot of faith that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to continue to be DeMarcus Lawrence. And I think the combination of those guys could be dynamite. Absolutely. I think the reason I would say linebacker is because I feel like you have
a lot of talent.
4 guys who could be starters so talent wise. So I think there's a lot of talent there for sure.
All right. 2 more quick questions here. This one from Austin, just 1-word answers, Landon. What cornerback on the roster do you see starting opposite of Trevon Diggs in week 1?
Brown.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's going to be Brown. Next question. Do you anticipate the Cowboys signing a veteran cornerback before week 1?
I'm 50-50 on it right now.
And I'm assuming you're not thinking Richard Sherman, right? Like just somebody else besides Sherman?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely that it's somebody else besides Sherman. But I'm not ruling him out. I mean, there's a lot of ties there. It depends on. I mean, I think with Sherman, it's all about money, right? It's all about what he's willing to take.
I don't think he's all that interested in going to a training camp either.
Oh yeah, well, I think. I mean, let me back up. I don't think any of these guys get signed for training camp.
Yeah,
like maybe the last week of training camp, and then they have to work out to get into shape. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't anticipate any of these and frankly, for the Cowboys' sake, right? Like I think they want the full training camp to figure out what they have, especially at corner, because they have so many young players there before they commit to signing the money to a guy like Richard Sherman. And again, going back to the rules, it may be week 2. Right. It may be after the week 1 game that maybe you go to, and that's the unfortunate thing about playing Tom Brady week 1, isn't it? Is that,
you might know if you need that though, right? That's maybe
it really drives the point home. Like, okay, Brady showed us we definitely need another cornerback. So let's go sign a guy. And now since it's week 2, his contract isn't guaranteed for the whole season. So that's why I think, there's still opportunity to sign veteran free agents at defensive tackle, at cornerback, at potentially defensive end. But I think that for the Cowboys' sake, they're probably going to wait at the very least until after training camp or near the end of training camp, and even more likely after week 1 when their contract isn't guaranteed for the whole season.
All right, one more quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON20 and you'll get 20% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. Also want to tell you guys about RockAuto.com. It's a family business serving auto parts to customers online for over 20 years. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brand, specifications, and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, 2 more fun questions here, Landon, to close out the show. First and foremost, this one from Jared. What is your favorite meat to barbecue on game day?
My favorite meat to barbecue? Oh,
yeah. I mean, I know you're California guys, so you guys probably don't do meat out there. You're probably doing some kind of vegan thing.
No, that is absolutely not true. It is chicken wings, honestly. Like okay. I really love wings. Like garlic and barbecue sauce.
That was the next question. This one from Austin. What is your favorite flavor of wings for game day?
My wife makes an incredible garlic I think butter. It's just incredible. Butter garlic wings that are just amazing. And you're like dipping the wing back onto the plate to get the rest of the sauce. It's delicious, to say the least.
I'm a barbecue fan, right? I just honey barbecue, smokehouse barbecue, anything like that. I'm good. I do have a confession to make on the show that I can guarantee you will get people upset.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm a boneless barbecue or boneless wing fan.
Whoa.
I mean, it's just, listen, here's the deal. If I'm eating chicken, I want it to be as easy and painless and clean as possible because I got other things to do during the game. I got to be typing up these fire tweets. I can't have barbecue sauce all over my fingers.
I just want to remind all of y'all that I am a guest on this show. I am
You're not the co-host.
I am not your host is a boneless chicken wing eater. So you guys make your determination on this however you want.
Anyways, back to my favorite meat to barbecue, pulled pork. Right, like you do a big. That's really good. Big pork butt because. Not only is it great for whatever you're making for the day, but you have all the leftovers all week long to make sandwiches or nachos or whatever. It's a very, very versatile meat. That's a good way to close out the show. My last show ever here on the Locked On Cowboys podcast before I get canceled. So
I will be your new host. And Marcus will be my guest.
Make sure you guys continue to follow us on Twitter. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. I cannot wait to hear about all my bad.
Please tweet at Marcus_Mosher all your takes on bones versus boneless wings, please.
Oh, I can't wait. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. We will see you guys back here tomorrow. We're going to start our positional previews, getting ready for training camp.